when people ask me, where is my mind? Coming from the work that I do, being a psychotherapist, working with so many people coming with childhood trauma, my answer is always that mind is in the body and body is the mind. Let me tell you why I say this. I'll tell you a few stories, not stories, real cases. Names have been changed, of course. Rakesh came to us, 36-year-old entrepreneur with a wife, lovely kid, lovely business he was running. But every evening from 5 to 7, he would get severely depressed. Just started a few months ago before he came to us, and he had no apparent reason why he was feeling that way. When we probed further in therapy, we found out that being the single child of working parents, he used to be picked up by his father from school every day. The father would drop him home, lock the door from outside, go back to work. Rakesh would spend the entire evening standing at the window, looking at all his friends playing outside freely. At 6 o'clock, his tuition teacher would come. He had the key, of course. And that 1 hour of tuition with that teacher was a torture for Rakesh because he would be beaten up, abused, threatened, and punished. Essentially, for Rakesh, every evening got associated with loneliness, helplessness, and fear. Then we have a young girl called Riya. She was in her late 20s, a part of medical students who we were taking through the process of Yoga Nidra. So my husband, whose photo is there, he and myself, Dr. Ririi Trivedi and myself, we were taking this whole group of people through a relaxation practice using Yoga Nidra. The entire group was relaxed, but this one girl, Riya, suddenly got up. She got a panic attack. She was sweating. Her heart rate was up. And she's like, I have to run away from here. So I took her out of the class and I asked her what happened. And she said that an old memory, something that happened 20 years ago just surfaced, ma'am. When I was 14, my mother used to take me to a gynecologist. He had a French beard and salt and peppered hair. And for every time I would go for a checkup, he would sexually molest me. I didn't tell this to anyone. I had forgotten about it. But today when I saw Dr. Ririi Trivedi, and when I tried to relax, that memory came up and I just went into a state of panic. Then we have Ankit. Ankit loves driving. He took his car out of his driveway one day and 2 people on an Activa came, crashed against his car, and they were injured a little bit. 10 years since then, Ankit has not been able to drive the car. Every time he sits on the steering wheel, his hands freeze, he starts trembling, he sweats, and he is not able to drive the car since 10 long years. We also see a lot of people coming to us with social anxiety. People who get extremely scared and anxious when they have to deal with unknown people or large groups of people. And invariably, most of them have had one or more experiences in childhood where they were humiliated, shamed, embarrassed, or laughed at in front of a group of people. It could be classmates, friends, family, cousins, etc. And some of them have been brought up with a lot of fear by their parents. Log kya kahenge? What will people say? What will people say? Our experiences do not even spare us from our relationships. So we had a couple come to us, Nilesh and Saloni. Nilesh is the ideal husband. Like, he and Saloni both work. They have 2 kids. He does all the housework. He manages cooking, cleaning, vacuum, laundry. And in every social gathering, friends say, wow, Saloni, you're so lucky. Your husband does everything. We'd love to have a husband like him. You are so lucky. He helps you in everything. But every time this happens, Saloni goes back home and has a huge breakdown and a fight with Nilesh. We found out that when Saloni was growing up, her parents were so critical that her entire childhood she believed that she's not good enough, she cannot do anything right. She just doesn't get it, like she's completely worthless. So now when Nilesh does all the work, she is interpreting his behavior from the lenses that her experiences had created. She thinks Nilesh is doing all this just to prove that she's not good enough. Just because she can't do it, Nilesh is doing it for her, right? So our experiences also impact our relationships and the way we look at our spouses and partners and interpret their behaviors. Similarly, Pawan had come to us, and he used to get very triggered with his wife every time she would get excited and talk in a loud tone. The wife grew up in a family where this was very normal. Everybody would talk loudly and animatedly and express themselves. But for Pawan, it triggered a memory of his grandmother who used to always abuse him when he was a child. So these are few examples I have shared of what we call as adverse childhood experiences. What research says is that whatever we experience throughout our life, but of course between 0 to 18, has a huge impact on how we conduct ourselves in our relationships, in our work, how it affects our health and all of that. So these 16 elements that you see, which come under childhood trauma, which could be abuse, neglect, dysfunctional family, witnessing domestic violence, it has a huge impact on our mind and our body. And 3 decades of global research today shows that adverse childhood experiences or childhood trauma do not just, go away over time. People say, "Arey, it happened 20 years ago." It will, as time goes, you'll forget about it. It actually does not automatically heal over time, and I will explain then in the next few slides why it does not heal over time. But basically, your experiences are in your body, in your mind, body, like I said, are connected, and they play out in different ways. And sometimes they even hijack your logic, like in the cases you saw, which I shared. So if you, there are lots of publications that we have done, lot of research we have done in the area of childhood trauma, which is in the public domain. You can go through that. But today I would like to say how our experiences stay in our body and why they do not automatically heal over time. But I will also tell you how you can change it, okay? So it's not like a gloomy talk that I'm going to give you. So our body stores our experiences in the form of long-term memory. We all know that, right? We have memory. And long-term memory is divided into it's like 2 types, implicit and explicit. So suppose if I ask one of you that, do you know how to ride a bicycle? And you'll say, yeah, it was a red-colored hero cycle. I was 6 years old. My dad would come from office, and every evening I would drive around in the building compound, and I loved it because that was the best time I spent with my dad. This is explicit memory for you. Explicit memory means it is who, what, when, where, how. You are consciously retrieving it. You have a narrative around that experience. You have a story about that experience, and you can recollect it consciously. But instead, if I today just give you a bicycle and you automatically start riding it without an explanation, without a word, that is implicit memory. It is a memory that your body has had of riding that bicycle multiple times. So implicit memory, you don't need to consciously retrieve it. It is automatic, that comes from your body. Now trauma and trauma responses come from the implicit memories. So now you can relate to the earlier cases, right? Of course, Ankit knew that if the car had hit people once, it's not going to happen again. Rakesh knew that what happened in childhood doesn't have to happen as in adulthood. But when the trauma memories or implicit memories are triggered, the body automatically responds and it hijacks your logic and your logical mind. Also, memory is stored as associations. So, there are positive associations and negative associations. And body, in order to keep us alive, body has, because of the survival instinct, body has a huge need to hold on to the painful associations more than the positive associations. So any memory that has threatened you, has made you feel scared, afraid, the body will hold on to it much strongly. And of course, it is as association. So for Ria, French beard and salt and pepper was associated automatically with sexual assault. For Rakesh, evenings was associated with loneliness and being punished. And for Ankit, driving was associated with injuring people. So mind stores or body stores these as associations, and at the same time, it also stores in the language that the body understands, which is visual kinesthetic. So suppose if you were bitten by a dog, then the image of the dog, the feeling you had in your body, the emotion you had at the time, the sound that you heard, all that will form the memory, and that will create the program. And in future, even if the dog is slightly different, you are in a different environment, once that memory is triggered with the image or the sound or the sight, your body will play that automatic program all over again. Childhood trauma or painful experiences also affect the brain centers. So children who go through back-to-back trauma, like subah utte, they are physical abuse, emotional abuse, they are being beaten, they see parents fighting, they are bullied in school. When they are in a state of chronic stress, the part of the brain responsible for impulsive behavior is overactivated. The fear center is overactivated. So these are the kids who are constantly on the edge. They cannot stay calm, they cannot relax, they are hypervigilant, and they are highly impulsive. And the part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for controlling impulsive behavior, is underdeveloped because of excessive cortisol and stress hormones. So they cannot think rationally, they cannot control their impulses, they cannot have long-term planning and all of that. So stress, chronic stress and trauma impacts the brain centers as well. Also, the memory center is affected. Not just that, when the brain is affected, the nervous system also is affected. We have a beautiful system in our body where when the body is in stress, it goes into fight and flight. When it is relaxed, it goes into rest and repair. But in case of chronic stress, when you are living your life as a child, in a lot of stress from morning to evening, your nervous system now learns to always be in a state of fight and flight, constantly hyper vigilant. What will happen next? What will happen next? What will happen next? It will, as an adult also, you will be hyper vigilant, over anxious, fearful, and it is also marked by high blood pressure, high heart rate, inability to sleep, and it is linked to cardiac issues, autoimmune disorders. There's tons of research on how this affects our physiology. So net, if you see, trauma affects every part of our mind and body. And because mind and body are connected, it has an all-pervasive effect. But can we change it? Of course we can change it. Of course we can change it because brain has neuroplasticity. So old experiences are playing the old programs. When you change your experiences, when you change your internal experiences and the external environment, your neural pathways can slowly change. Your nervous system can be taught, can be rewired to be regulated from a dysregulated form, pretty much like how you learn to ride a bicycle, right? It is a muscle memory. It's a training that you have to do in your body. Your memory, your trauma memory, which is locked as associations, those associations can also change, and the memories can be reconsolidated as well. There is a very powerful research. So there are techniques to do this. Inner child healing, RTM, or reconsolidation of trauma memory, is one such beautiful practice. We have published in the Journal of Trauma and Disassociation on how memory which is reconsolidated can help people who have complex trauma. Complex trauma is an outcome of childhood trauma or adverse childhood experiences. So if you see, if any one of you sitting here or some of you here are victims of childhood trauma, you believe that your mind is carrying these automatic triggers, these trauma incidents, then there are a couple of things you can do. First thing is what you can do by yourself. Regulate your nervous system. There are different ways you can do it. Abdominal breathing, coherent breathing, chanting, humming. But this takes time. It's like you are unlearning and then relearning. So regulating your nervous system is the first step. If your nervous system is relaxed and regulated, you can take slow breaths, your muscles are relaxed, your heart rate is slow, then you'll be able to choose your response and not be a victim of your trauma memory, which hijacks your logical mind. So you'll be able to respond consciously. Sound healing, guided visualization, self-hypnosis are some methods that help because they work on the mind and the body. And they also work in the language of the body. If all of this doesn't help, of course, therapy helps. Therapy that uses inner child, that uses reconsolidation of memory. Remember, I showed you that memories are stored as associations. So in RTM, you bring up the memory, the therapist brings up the memory, reconsolidates it with a neutral memory, with a neutral association, and that memory now does not have the power to hijack your logical mind. So it's almost like you have a firecracker, but you remove the gunpowder from it. Memories cannot be deleted, but they can be reconsolidated, they can be neutralized. The emotional charge can be separated from the memory using some techniques, so the memory does not have the power to control your present moment. So like it is mentioned here, RTM, EMDR, these are all research-based techniques I'm talking about. There is a lot of published research on this. Guided visualization, trauma-informed CBT, all of these can help you. But first, you have to start with yourself. So today, Ankit is able to drive his car. Rakesh's evenings are free from depressive episodes. And Riya is able to comfortably work with men who have salt and pepper hair and a French beard. If they can do that, you can do it too. Remember, you don't have to hold on to your traumas. You don't have to use it to blame, shame, or be stuck in your past. You can always change it the moment you decide to change it with the right tools and the right help. Thank you so much.